I'm looking. Yeah. Yeah. So, so there's this Tom on the board. There's Trish that just came in. That's walking around the back. So she came to the last historical society meeting, which was nice having.
She's been doing the minutes lately, I guess.
You know, you get dragged into stuff.
Yeah, that's the worst position.
So I think she was trying to retire from it again.
Well, there was another lady that was here, right? She was an older lady.
Yeah. So she's still on the list. Tina. So she was maybe having other health issues. I think I saw an email going around. Now I forget who was having health issues, so that's the universal thing. Either people are sick or...
The older you get, the more you talk about it.
Things break that you didn't even know you had.
Yeah, really. It's like, what's that? Yeah, I always, when I talk to my friends, we don't want to talk about health issues. That shows your age, you know. And then now that's all we talk about. Like, no, we're doing it again. Stop. Yeah, we used to go on hikes. We go to a different park. We walked like 3 or 4 miles, and this was only a year ago. But you know, we've done it for about 5 years. And now we're to that point where we're going to Longwood Gardens, taking a stroll, making sure bathrooms close by, and going on the asphalt pavements.
Being a little more careful.
Being a lot more careful, yeah.
There's Janet. Janet's with Mark in the back walking out. She pulls a chair up and hangs out in the back corner with. So she's sitting right next to. Yeah, and that's the president of the fire company. So they're really good friends. They've known each other for a while.
Mark is an amazing guy. He's going to retire. I don't know who's going to retire. He keeps saying he's going to retire.
You have to have that Snoopy personality. He finds out everything that's going on. It was like Joe Lake. You know, it's like, where do you hear that?
Yeah.
Finding out information about, and then having to attend all the other meetings, all the county meetings. And things.
All right, we're going to call the meeting to order. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
The land use attorney and the applicant for McDonald's have not shown up yet, but they did request this meeting to be moved from the October meeting, so we're assuming they're, like everybody else, got stuck outside the door for a while or on their way. So what we're going to do is just continue with our agenda, and we'll go out of order until they arrive. All right, if we could rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of Allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, minutes. We're Anyone on the board have a chance to review the minutes that Trish so ably took down? Good to see you. Any motion or any motion to accept the minutes as presented? We'll see a second. Second, any conversation on corrections or alterations to be made? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? None. All right. Treasurer's report goes up to the board. Bill, you want to give the treasurer's report?
All right. So as of the end of October, cash in the bank was $5,232.10. Membership dues were $675, interest of $12. Website expense $449. Delaware franchise tax registered agent $5, and bank service charges $20. And that is the treasurer's report.
Any questions on the treasurer's report? Motion to accept as presented. Second. Any conversation? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Pay your dues. All right. Let's move along. We'll skip item 5 until they show up. Jump into legislative. I see we have both Senator Satola here. I saw him walking in a moment ago, and Councilwoman Kilpatrick. So I will defer to whomever wishes to go first.
I'll defer to Senators.
All right. Councilwoman Kilpatrick. All right. Here too. We got a full vote. Dave, you're coming up?
Sure, is that
All
okay?
right.
Or you want me to just flex?
No, do it right here. That's great. That way everyone can see you. That way.
You have a nice crowd here tonight.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about
Be a big
McDonald's.
deal. So thank you for a few moments. The House was in session last week. The Senate will be doing that bill on Wednesday, as well as one confirmation for family court commissioner in Sussex County. Last week, we cut the ribbon on a family court in the House in Sussex, which you might not think it's a big deal up here, but it's important to the whole state that we have infrastructure that works. As chair of the Bond Bill Committee 10 years ago, I went to Kent and to Sussex County, and to, of course, a number of places up here in Newcastle County, school buildings and the like, and made sure that as we had revenues in a good position back then, that we would do more for our infrastructure. The courthouses have been recommended since 1997. One of the buildings, the Kent County Courthouse, was built before Delaware had a family court. Family court had its 50th anniversary about 3 or 4 years ago. The safety and security elements in particular were needed. And actually there were new recommendations for what to do in courthouses in general. We had a tragedy at the Wilmington Courthouse, obviously, a little over a decade ago. And it's important that we have those things. I was also happy to make sure that we got our first deposit then, and now it's complete, the first school in the city of Wilmington. That helps us out here. It's very important that our infrastructure is safe, is secure, and is current. Plus, the newer facilities have much better technology and much better energy efficiency, and I think that helps us in the long run with lower ongoing costs. The bill next week is, or this week, is about decoupling. About 30 states have decoupled all or part of we were what was called a rolling conformity state. That means if the feds change something, we just conform to whatever their new policy was. There's a lot of times when that helped. There are times more recently when it started to hurt a little bit, and this is one that was going to have a big impact. Not major big impact, but an impact that combined with some of the things that were happening at the same time. Main thing, we were getting money. It was allocated by Congress. President signed it into law, and money was just being held up arbitrarily. A lot of school money came later than it was supposed to come this year. In other areas, obviously we had to pull in for the state. There was tremendous bipartisan support around SNAP for us to make sure that we had that funded. And of course, our congressional delegation made sure that when the bill did pass, that the money that we put up front would come back to the state so that we could make sure that the money that we had allocated would be where it was supposed to be. But when we did a budget in June, and every June, there's a bill we do before the budget. It's a resolution. And it's a resolution that says these are the revenues that we have to work with. I served on DFAC, the Delaware Financial Advisory Council, for a little over half a decade. I took it very seriously. It's a process where we estimate about 24 line items of revenue. But it's a very healthy process because we meet 4 or 5 times a year, and when we meet the next time, if revenues are off from where we projected them the previous time, we have to figure out where we made the mistake. And sometimes it's a real innocuous thing, like suppose lottery estimated $50 million of revenue. I'm just picking a number out of the hat. And the next time we meet, we actually got $55 million of revenue. Well, the explanation is usually, well, Powerball went to $1 billion, and so more people bought lottery tickets. And those are the kinds of explanations we get for each of the 24 line items of revenue for DFAC. And it's important. Those resolutions always pass unanimously in both the House and Senate. There are people who accuse once in a while that, oh, they're picking numbers out of the air. But if you go to those, and I think they're always available online, you can check in on them. The one in December will be the one that the governor has to do his official governor's recommended budget. So we did that resolution, and then we did a budget, and then July 4th, the President of the United States signed a bill that changed retroactively our revenues that we had just voted on. And it's something that we could have absorbed. We have a reserve fund, but it's also something that when we're not getting necessarily all the revenues, all the federal funding that we're expecting in the timely manner that we have for my entire 35 years in office, for the first time this year, some of those funds have been coming late. A number of us felt that the right thing to do would be to decouple. Turns out the bill that the House passed had some thoughtful debate, very good suggestions. There were a few things that were cut down a little bit in that bill, and I don't have a problem with that. It was a good process. It's going to cut the revenue another 15 to 20 million bucks or something, but it won't be the amount that it was going to be cut if we did nothing. And the other thing that's important to know, no business will pay more to Delaware than they would have paid after the House and Senate passed their budget, had that bill not passed. So it's not like we're increasing their taxes, though it was de facto a 3/5 vote because we were a rolling conformity state. And by a rolling conformity, the federal law that changed meant their taxes that they would have been obligated to pay the state would have been due, would have been cut down, so our revenue stream would have been cut down. Primarily, it was in a couple areas, and the big one was R&D. But it's an important thing. It's important for the state, and I do respect some of the people who did not support that, but I'm more than happy to support that bill. I thought it was the right thing to do. The other thing I want to report is I'm serving on that Sustainable Funding Energy Transportation Task Force. Their next meeting is, it's up here in Newcastle County. It's on December 1st, and you can observe that online as well. We're looking at all the line items of the Transportation Trust Fund. When I was first elected in 1990, not all the gas tax and not all the tolls went to the trust fund, but my first 2 years, Mike Castle was the governor, and there was a tight fiscal year then. He shifted some of the funds streams to the trust fund, and he shifted a number of the personnel positions to the trust fund. So, you know, and now all of the personnel is in the trust fund. I voted twice to increase the gas tax. In 1991 and then again in 1995. Castle was governor for the first time, Carper for the second time. Both of those times we were staying comparable to what the region is. We're now the lowest gas tax by more than 10 cents in the region. You know, that's one of the things that's on the table. It's certainly not the only thing. We did a revenue package this past year that generates about $39 million. Plus, in addition to the revenue package, DelDOT has within their guidelines to follow, but they can increase tolls. And some tolls were increased as well. And so we're trying to get a handle back on the trust fund so that we can have roads and bridges that are safe and appropriate for Delaware. I have a hybrid car. It's a plug-in Jeep Grand Cherokee. I'm going to be paying an extra $115 a year on that, but I think it's fair. The great Jeep Grand Cherokee that I have now is heavier than the previous one I had because it has a battery in it, and those batteries are not trivial when it comes to weight. But I do pay a lot less gas tax, and I do at least the same wear and tear on the roads. So I could go on, but I know Jen's back there. If anybody has any questions for me, I'm happy to try to field them. Great. All right. Thank you very much. Hand off at the time to Janet.
You want to go next, Jerry, or you want to go next? Representative Smith.
I'm gonna be really quick.
Good evening, everyone. I'm going to be quick because I think we're all here to hear about McDonald's. So I'll just read the room and say that I have a whole opinion on decoupling. If you get my newsletter, you can read my op-ed that I wrote. So the senator and I will have to agree to disagree on that, and that's okay. That's democracy at work. The one thing I really wanted to focus on, though, was there is chatter in the READY consortium about consolidating school districts in just part of Newcastle County. And so they're going to be putting a proposal together to the legislature when we get back on potentially voting on that redistricting plan. So if you have kids in school, it will greatly affect you. And so I'm going to push it out on Facebook and in the newsletter tomorrow morning because I was just made aware of the town halls myself. But there are 2 virtual town halls coming up to consider 3 redistricting options, which would be Brandywine and Red Clay School District, Metropolitan Wilmington School District, and Northern Newcastle County Consolidated School District. And so why that's important is if you have kids, that changes your feeder pattern and everything else, right? And so I would just encourage you to share with friends and join if you can. More of a learning session, and then obviously share your opinion if you'd like to during public comment. But I just wanted to make you aware of that. One is tomorrow. Today's the 17th. Yes. Sorry, I can't even get my kids' schedules right yet on Monday. So tomorrow the 18th, and then the 19th as well. There'll be 2 virtual town halls. With that, also, I just wanted to add, if you know anyone in need of a Thanksgiving meal or somebody going through a trial or tribulation, we have a community group set up to try to make sure we deliver them a meal, help them out with the holidays. We have a woman who's going through breast cancer with young kids, so we're trying to provide a good Christmas for her children and their family. If you know of anyone in need, please send me an email, let me know so that we can support them as a community, and I can connect you with the right group to do so. All right? Thank you. I don't want to leave. Janet has one awesome thing to tell you, so. Yes. Sorry. Yeah, I'm going to put it out on social. There's ways to RSVP. So I'm going to put it out on my newsletter and social media first thing in the morning. It's just too long. You'll never write it down properly now. Okay? Yeah.
Good evening. Thank you for coming out tonight on this
cold day. Just a quick reminder that after all of the court cases for reassessment have been completed, we have moved through the General Assembly and the county, we have moved the date for taxes to December 31st. So we have given you now a quarter of a year basically to pay the taxes. The taxes now, I believe, are all online. I checked mine the other day and I know that my new tax is online. If you look at it, what you will most likely see is that your county tax is exactly the same as what it was before, because the case really had to do, the case and the General Assembly had to do with the school tax in breaking that down between different tax rates between residential and non-residential. So I will tell you, my school tax went down considerably. So this is going to make, I believe, going to make a huge difference in people's lives. My school tax went down $650. So I would imagine that everybody else's comparably, percentage-wise, is going to go down. If you have any questions, I'm certainly willing to answer them. At this point, I would just say if you can pay your taxes. Last I asked, we only had 30% of the taxes paid to the county, which is county and state. And money, we spend $1 million a day, so money goes fairly quickly. So if you knew that you were going to have taxes and you have the ability to pay them, I certainly would encourage you to do that as soon as possible.
Any questions for Councilwoman Kilpatrick? All right, thank you, Janet. December 31st, we get a New Year's tax break. Hillary?
You should get a bill. They're anticipating that they should have gone out.
They're anticipating that they should have gone out this week, probably midweek. That doesn't mean that the post office is going to deliver them immediately, but if you go online, nccde.org, and you look under parcel view, what you owe is on there.
Will there be information about that 3-month payment program that we heard about?
There should be information on there about that also, yes. And that's, I can't give you specifics right now, but they said 3 months. So my guess is that it will be the end of this month, the end of December, and probably the end of January. Yes, it will be. Yes. It's just taken a long time to get through this process. I mean, part of it is that we can't hire enough people to do it. We advertise for people to help with the assessment, the appeals. We don't have enough people. So it is going much slower than what we anticipated, and this goes from the beginning on. We couldn't hire enough people, or Tyler couldn't hire enough people to do the reassessments, to walk the streets. We can't hire enough to do the end product. So bear with us. If you find that in the end you have overpaid by $50 or more, you will automatically get a refund. $50 or less, you can get a refund, but they also would just credit it towards next year, which helps us not have to go through some of the paperwork. Yes.
How about those of us who have their taxes paid as part of their escrow with their mortgage company? How was that handled?
My assumption from what I've seen is that it will go back to the mortgage company into your escrow account.
So if our mortgage company has already paid the county its taxes and there is an adjustment, it will go back to our mortgage?
Yes. That would only be fair in my mind.
The refund's automatic, you don't have to apply for it.
If the refund is automatic if it's over $50. You have to apply if it's under $50.
If we already paid our taxes, will we get a new bill?
Probably.
Okay.
Because you would have to get a new bill because your school tax has changed.
Okay.
So you can go online, but I think that at this point, everybody should be getting a new bill. I have to say, I never got a bill. So when people say to me, there's something wrong with you guys, or there's something wrong with the post office, I don't know who it is, but I never got a tax bill this year. I got on there too, but it's worth it. Yes.
Just briefly, you mentioned that this year only
about 30% of taxes paid so far. General ballpark for other years, what was that about?
In the 90s.
90s, yeah.
Because it normally would be the end of September, your taxes would be due. So we would normally be in the mid to high 90s.
When you're gonna take into consideration the 65-year-old and $500.
The $500 credit is a state issue. I don't know if Mike wants to come up and talk about that. There are exemptions and there are credits. And the county gives exemptions, the state gives an exemption under certain circumstances, and to anybody over 65, that $500 comes into play. Now, I think I talked about this last time, but if you had any exemption, senior exemption, disabled exemption, veterans exemption, if you had that previously, you have it now.
Okay.
They did not take anybody's away.
Yeah, when I called them, told me I had that.
Yeah,
You don't have
and
to reapply.
yeah, you don't ever, once you're in, you're in. Right, and even, the criteria for some of these exemptions has changed a lot because we raised all of our exemptions the same percentage as what the overall tax was raised. But the state has also raised most of theirs, but they still have not raised, and you might want to look into this, they still have not raised the income level for the school exemption, not the credit, because that's not means tested, but for the school exemption, you are still at $15,000 and $19,000.
We have a bill that was supposed to do it. We'll get that.
Okay, because we did everything else for you guys, but this one didn't come through as
You
being
have a
changed.
bill you have for 2 years to make the bill become law, otherwise you have to redo the bill. So we have a bill that was presented when we get back in January. It has to be done before June 30th.
Because nobody right now could file for that exemption. There's nobody that makes $19,000.
We also have another bill to raise that senior tax credit.
And that's what I think they wanted to hear. Right?
Yeah, it's to raising an additional $500.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. All right, we'll continue moving along. Land use report. Obviously, a lot of people here to talk about McDonald's, 5709 Limestone Road. Fast food with drive-through, properties intersection of Limestone and Paper Mill, just east of the spur roads between Wells Fargo and the daycare center. The updated plan and status has still not been presented to the county land use department, and that's what we're waiting for, is the updated plan to be presented here. I've texted and called the land use attorney that's representing the applicant and the landowner. And just to let everyone know, I'll jump a little bit ahead and then we'll circle back and have more conversation. The landowner approached the McDonald's franchising group about the property availability. So it wasn't like they came looking. Although everyone that's lived in the greater Hockessin area knows that McDonald's has been looking for a spot for at least 15 years when they were at Lantana Square. And their reasoning was their model is drive-through, more drive-through than walk in and sit down. So they didn't like the location where Five Guys is. They wanted to be out on Limestone Road, and they were not, there was not any parcels there for them to move out of Lantana. If they waited 10 years, they probably could have picked up where Tim's Liquor went or where Walgreens was, because that was Southwoods Mushroom Farm, but that all happened afterwards and before they were able to do anything. So this is what they're looking at, and I'll keep you updated. I'm watching my phone to see if a text comes in from the land use attorney. So I contacted him to find out if they're going to be here tonight. And if not, why? Because they asked to be pushed from the October meeting to the November meeting. And we had the same thing, we had to push for I'll go on to that one. Across the street, the old Exxon station went from being Starbucks for the last 2.5 years. They were thinking of putting in a new Starbucks with double drive-throughs there. They pulled out. If anyone watched the new Starbucks, it's not really doing a lot with new stores. So that plan has been pulled, and now it's called a car wash. It's called Top Flight, or the name off the top. It's the brand name or what they're calling this one, but they're looking at a proposed full-service tunnel wash that goes through there with detail. It would be from 8 to 8 in the morning, 8 to 9, fully staffed, but that's what's being proposed there. And that would go from Yorkland Road to Lancaster Pike. So you'd have right in, right out on Lancaster Pike, and then full access left and right off of Yorkland, because there's a divider there where that is, and that would change that. So that'll be presented at the January. We do not meet in December, everyone gets the holiday off, so you can stay with your family and visit friends and have a nice holiday season. PNC Bank branch right across the street is 7421 Lancaster. If you're a PNC customer, you probably noticed the branch is closed. It closed back on, I think, the 14th, or yeah, I think it was actually last week, Thursday. But their plan is they permanently closed that, including the ATM, which was basically the last thing running. They've been doing that on a nationwide basis. They did buy another bank out west. It's almost in effect doubles the size of PNC Bank. They will eventually rebrand that bank to PNC nationally as well. But their model, from what they said and talking to their, the branches that they're looking at are going to be not as much full service, and they're not going to be opening duplicate branches when they do that merger. They're going to be closing more of them down. Their model is everybody's using an app, or they're going online to do their banking. That's what they're saying is their shift that they're seeing. So if you're a PNC customer, get the app or get used to working online, because it doesn't sound like they're going to have much in the way of actual walk-up branches based on their business model. The Wells Fargo Bank, former bank at 7270 Lancaster Pike, that's still for sale. Last price was $2.7 million. The 6,000 square foot building, which is a retail location. Property totals just a little over 3.5 acres. It is CR, which means commercial regional. Just to give you an idea, that's what Lantana is zoned. So commercial regional is one of the higher permissible zonings. There's one called commercial neighborhood, which would be a smaller one, like you would have in a standalone lot that's near residential. There can be everything in there that's under commercial. It's not the highest. Industrial is the highest permissible zoning. And if you ever want to look at those, go on the county website under land use and UDC. You can see what's allowed in every type of zoning. They're out of California. The Wachovia Court owns them. And they have, basically what we're thinking is that they're going to raise the building and probably do something with a two-story or multiple-story building so they can have retail on the ground floor, offices or apartments above. It's pure conjecture at this point because there are no preliminary plans and nobody's bought it. But for $2.7 million, they can squeeze a lot out of that property and make it pay off. The Hartnett Law Building across the street, what's going on downtown Odessa? 7301 Lancaster Pike. That building, which is right next to Rita's and US Mail, if you're heading towards Wilmington, on that side, that was sold for just a little over 1.08 million, was just under 5,500 square feet, and they've already started the interior demolition. If you've been around, you've seen the dumpsters going in and out every few days. They've gutted the internals. From what we've heard, it's going to continue to be office suites, but as we said back, I think 3 or 4 months ago, some of the things that they asked to find out could it be cited there was everything from nail salons to tattoo parlor. They're all under the same commercial zoning that building had already. So those are some of the questions they were asking. So it can be anything from a hair salon, nail salon, tattoo parlor, or offices. So we don't know because they haven't yet finished the remodel. Janet, can they do medical under that zoning as well, like medical offices, suites?
I'm going to say yes, but I have to, there's certain, not everything can just go, and there's circumstances that go along with it. So if they would decide to do that, we obviously have to go through and have zoning verification.
That's one that was up on the top of the hill. There was a building up by, when you look at where, not Factory Lodge, but the other one, the sub shop. That behind there was all, used to be medical suites, so they had individual exam rooms and all that, and it's been converted to regular offices now, so. That's cool, yeah, that's behind Castle Same. Walgreens at 2012 Brackenville, that's listed for sale at 5.8 million. They're not selling, they're just selling the real estate so they can use the money to open more branches elsewhere. It's got just under 12,000 square foot of retail, and it is subject to a long-term lease from whoever buys it, which goes through February, the end of February 2029. It's called the triple net lease, which means they pay all their portion of the taxes the maintenance, and all of the upkeep of the building itself. So whoever buys it, you basically get income of $462,360 a month, goes up 12.5% at the end of each 3 and 5 year renewal option. So if you're sitting on 5.7 million and you want guaranteed income, have at it. Coffee Run condo, for those that don't know about Coffee Run, there was one unbuilt building lot that was left when those were constructed eons ago. And that did sell for 1.4 million. It's about half an acre, give or take, and they are gonna construct a new 5-story building. That's the max it can be to match the other buildings. From the outside, it has to look pretty much like the buildings that are there, but on the inside, they can do whatever they wish, so they can have more units, less units, however. But I think they're looking at 45 luxury condos is what they're citing for that. But that was recently sold, and at some point that will go before land use. Councilman Kilpatrick will see that on the land use committee, and you'll also see it when it goes before. Yeah.
Are they gonna have to have parking and
Yep.
building setbacks on that half acre?
Yeah, it's already, the site plan is already determined as to where the footprint would be, because it was in the original plans.
Okay.
And the parking could be, go ahead, Jen.
Let me just say about that, that when the original builders were there, they named their buildings A, B, C, D, E. They purposely did not build section A so that nobody could ever say, you can't build this here. They did B, C, D, E, whatever, but the one that's going to be developed is A. So it is the first one that could have been developed, but I don't get, you know.
Semantics stuff, yeah.
But Janet, because they split the property, does the same plan hold?
As long as it's within the same footprint of the plan, yes.
Okay, even though that two different people own the,
I can be, and the original plan was filed. Okay, NDF master plan in Yorkland. One of the questions that's been coming up lately around town is what is the state going to do about their original promises that they agreed to do with the public facilities and connections to the Auburn State Park pathways and trails? I know they've got all the bridges they bought, they've connected some of them, but there's still some that are not. So that's something that a few folks have posed, and we've got some emails on that. There's other things happening as well, where there was, I think it was Senator Sturgeon, Laura Sturgeon, and Representative Krista Griffith have approached the state about setting aside money to buy up some of the developable properties. Not sure where the funding is yet on that, but I'm sure
That's approved.
Go ahead, Jen.
It's approved.
It's approved?
The funding has been approved.
Okay. Did that come out of the new budget proposal, or?
The open space.
We have open space
Okay, great,
money
so the
that they
money's
can
been
have.
approved, so they'll start buying those up. All right, terrific. 701 Valley Road, the brick ranch with a 3-car garage back in front of the former McGrellis properties on Valley Road. If you were out Friday, you might have seen the owner out there with an excavator crew. I don't know what they were doing, maybe there was a water line break, or they were disconnecting the water line because of the construction going on at the former McGrellis property. But that's the most action we've seen there in 3 years. So we're not sure. We reached out a few times to find out if they're going to continue with the plan they had filed, which was a medical office suites there that came to us, I think, 5 or 6 years ago at this point. 520 Valley Road, no update, still for sale, buildable with a 10,000 square foot building. It must be by right to be code compliant. Otherwise, they would have to get rezoned. And that was the Goddard School that bought that kitty corner from the Walgreens at the corner of Valley and Limestone, just behind the Del Doc stormwater pond. They had bought that when business was booming, and they wanted to expand their daycare, move out of Lantana, but the market collapsed, and they're staying there where they are in Lantana. 6042 and 6060 Limestone. That's a major redevelopment without rezoning. It's the residential apartments. 4% will be low income, not Section 8, but low income based on state and federal. That is, if you're heading towards Pike Creek on the right-hand side, just after Limestone Veterinary, there's like a ranch house that sits way back, and then there's an open lot. This is, I think it's right after just after the brick building where the AT&T store used to be in there. But but there should still be a yellow sign, but it's before you go into, what's the name of that?
Before you get to Gerald Farms.
Gerald Farms, before Gerald Farms, thank you.
That beat.
Yep, so it's right there, but that's one that was originally going to be an assisted living, elder care, dementia care, but that plan came and went, and this is what has been put in by George Beard.
What's the address?
6042 and 6060 Limestone Road. And that's already been through the whole process, we're just waiting for the kickoff. Valley Grove, that's the former Cameron Western property. They have finished the exteriors, or just about finished the last 6 lots. They're building the outsides, but they'll allow the insides to be pretty much framed so they can spec them into what people want. They had 56 homes total, and the county always holds 10% of permits until they turn over the communities. That's something new that started, a dozen years ago with land use. And that was kind of to stop developers from getting basically most of the project done and walking away. And to give you an example, if anyone's ever remembered Coquesson Valley Falls, big houses down off of Brackenville, to this day, there's still empty lots in there. So they never completed that neighborhood. It was supposed to be a maintenance corp. It's never been turned over or completed. And I think the last time around, there was 4 or 5 lots sold at the back end of Lantana for about $250,000 a piece, and whoever bought them put up these $1.5 to $2 million mansions. They're huge. But that's one of the reasons the county did this with land use. They decided we've got to stop that because there's some unscrupulous developers that get all the money for 90% of it and then walk away when they get the last snags. So that is something now the county does, and it works out. And they also hold money from them to make sure that the roads get done by DelDOT and that the stormwater facilities get built and completed and inspected. So that's good improvements. Harmony at Coquesson Senior Living, that's right across the street from where our able vice president lives. They're getting close. I mean, I've seen the ads and billboards going up, so they're starting to sell the concept to everybody. And we've talked about this before. Gentlemen in the room, if you're going to retire and be put in a home, be really nice to your daughter or daughter-in-law. The national statistics say they're the ones that decide where we go when we're too old to take care of ourselves. And they want them to be close so they don't have to run all over creation or another state to go visit you and take care of it. So that's every one of these retirement companies that come in here and told us what goes on. When they get to that point of who makes the decision, it's never the sons, even though they'll threaten you. It's the daughter or the daughter-in-law. So be really nice to them in your golden years. They're going to pick where you end up staying. And that's the one that right now is, we had 3 of them proposed originally for Hockessin. One was up where those low-income and subsidized housing is. One was on Valley Road, and that one up on the government. That was the only one that went through because of other issues with the economy and the other companies. Hockessin Station, if you've gone down Valley Road and you're looking east, you'll see the former Rebellis property has pretty much been completely gutted. They've torn up all the asphalt and hardened surfaces now, so they're getting ready to start putting in underground utilities. And their plan is to begin building next year early. The historic house right up the road from Mr. Persolio's old homestead is going to be remain there. Pete's talked about that from the Historic Society. There's a marker. It hasn't gone in yet, right? But it will be. You've got approval for the marker?
I think so.
Okay, so there'll be a marker. That's part of the Board of Education versus Brown versus Board of Education flight for years and years ago, and there was a place there where they stopped on their way to school at the 105C. Lantana Square, nothing new going on with them, although they did put in their stormwater remediation based on stormwater and engineering studies that were done, and they're still trying to figure out how to improve their impervious cover and allow more water to infiltrate back in. Let's see, the last one I've got is the cell phone tower in the area. As you may or may not know, there were 3 that Verizon had cited. One was at the Palace Center, just up the street here. That one is up and running, and the other one was at the Coffee Run condominiums. That one, I believe, is operational, but may still be in beta testing. although last time I went by, the signals were pretty strong. Those two look like the fake pine trees that everybody loves so much. The third one was out in Yorkland, at the Garrett House, right across from Blue Point Brewing up on the hill. These were the three sites that Verizon looked at where they wanted overlapping coverage, because there's not enough cell coverage in the greater Hotel area to demand what everybody that's here. And that was the one that was shot down at the historic review meeting and land use. That applicant is, which is Verizon, is going to appeal that and go back to land use and the Board of Adjustment to reconsider that with a new design possibly, don't know. They may be here in January to present that, we're waiting to hear, but that's, we'll see what they're gonna do. Go from there. Any questions, comments? Yes, ma'am.
I have two questions. One's about the car wash. Is that a done deal?
The which one?
The car wash on,
Nope.
on Lancaster Pike.
They may be filing a preliminary plan with the county, which they can do, but they will be here in January to show us their concept and what it is they're looking to do. But I will tell you that DENREC, just, if anyone's been around and watched, we had DENREC and the EPA fighting over who's gonna get the gold medal for being the best environmental steward of that project. Both agencies would rather see something with more pervious cover on that site than more impervious cover. They would like to have less water infiltration on that location because of the perk. And I'm gonna turn to Pete. What's the technical term again, Pete?
Oh,
I'm gonna put you on the spot.
Helmet.
Perk, it's the dry cleaning fluid. It's basically.
Oh yeah, I forget the chemical formula right now.
Any engineers in the audience?
Fluoride.
Thank you very much.
Fluoride gas.
Perchlorethylene. So that's what's caused the contamination in the aquifers around the area. And between the first round, which the EPA came in after we were designated Superfund site, the air spars injected air in, loosened up the water, it bubbled out, captured by carbon filters. And that's what Artesian still does in all the wells. They use double the filters they need to, which is good. So the water quality stayed very, very high with well below the limits of what's allowed. Believe it or not, they allow so much of everything in your water, but this is well below that. And then they came back with a new technology, which was hot steam air sparging. So they injected hot steam. That's why it took so long. They went back and did it again and were able to get out a magnitude more of what they did before. And the interim, they put it in monitoring wells. If you've ever stopped at the Mexican restaurant or the dry cleaners over there, you probably saw the parking lot was tore up. They rerouted all the monitoring wells to the back of the building so they'd be able to continue forward with the land itself. But long and short, it's been cleaned up to the federal standards. Both agencies, EPA and DENREC, literally were battling over who was going to get the victory lap because it came out quite well. And we were like, we're great, just thank you both for doing it because it needed to be done. And it was caused by all the dry cleaning companies that are in the Odessa area, including ones that are no longer operating anymore. So, long and short of that is, the question, just briefly.
Did I say one is more impervious cover?
No, more impervious cover. They want more hard surface on that site. And the reason is there'll still be some residual lower in the dirt layers. They scraped off everything off the top. Have you ever noticed the one at Crossing Docks Meat Market in the back? They had the site fenced off and there were a bunch of 55-gallon drums there for 2.5 years. They scraped off all the dirt, they took all the materials, and that went in those buckets to go off and get incinerated, which gets rid of the contaminants. But what they want to do over there, because there was more concentration, which is why there's the wells there, they have preferred to have more impervious cover and not allow water to infiltrate back down into to push those chemicals back down into the ground and eventually the aquifer. So that's what we're getting from DENREC, but we're going to see the reports when the applicant comes forward, because they'll have to get it, because it is a brownfield site, they're going to have to go through DENREC and the environmental on that. So we'll see. But they'll be here at the January meeting, and we'll go from there. Any other questions? I'm going to check my phone. Yes, ma'am.
The property, what it was 6042 or whatever it is, where they're putting the new apartments by Limestone Veterinary. You said it's a low income. Did you say that it's for over 55, right? Is it? That's what I had read somewhere.
Yes, it's.
It is over
It's for
55, yeah,
seniors, right?
4% low income and 55 plus.
It's what?
55 plus and low income, 4% low
So it
income.
would be similar, I'm guessing, to the building that's over by Birch Point. When you go down, there's a road, the access road to Birch Point, there's a 5 or 6 story brown brick building. And I think that's a senior, isn't that a senior citizen? What is it? I think
Peer
that's,
group this one, anyone know that one?
Yes.
it is, right?
Down in Pipe Creek, is that?
Yeah, Pike Creek, right,
Yes.
right by
So
Birch
that's
Point.
a-
So that's a, because I think people get alarmed when they hear subsidized and low income. And Woodley to me is a perfectly acceptable building for the neighborhood. You know, because there was some chatter on Facebook and the like when this first came out over a year ago. And there's another facility that's like that in Kennett Square called Red Clay Manor, and it's,
Yep.
it
I know that.
blends into the neighborhood.
Yes, same building.
Same group.
Okay, so, okay, that's all I
Yeah,
want
and
to
it's
know.
only 4% low income, and if you look at the numbers, it's low income based on that demographic. It's not like sub 10,000 a year, it's more, I wanna say 38 to 65,000 if you're a married couple.
Generally,
and that's
they have to,
retired.
they have to comply with HUD
Yep.
standards or some kind of federal government guidelines. that
Yeah, and
they
they're
have
gonna
to
have a
Right,
front
but
desk.
it's not section 8.
No,
Yeah,
no,
not
It's
section.
just, it's
No,
low
right.
income based on AMI.
right,
Yes.
Right, everything's good. All right, well, yes, I'm sorry, another question.
Is there any update on Quarry Walk?
Quarry Walk, the last I knew, they were waiting for DENREC to issue, their final inspection. I'm not 100% sure because we haven't seen anything yet, but the pump house is in place, the injector line for the sewer. So that's a pressure main, so it comes all the way from the old NDF's place down in Dorkland, pumps up to Hockessin, so they have to have that injector station to push the poo back to Hockessin. So that's why it's a pressure main. It's not gravity like most of our homes. It's just you flush and gravity feeds to the sewer system and then either goes to a county pumping station or so forth. But that line goes all uphill. So it's where the poo meets the power and goes into Hockessin. So they have that. If you've gone by Quarry Walk, in the back corner, you'll see a small cinder block building. That's the pump station. Yes, ma'am.
I'm missing an hour or 3 of my kids to be here, so can you, are the people
Yeah,
coming?
I'm looking. That's what I'm looking for right now. I just got a response, so. Do not shoot the messenger. This is the land use attorney. He apologizes that the applicant is still not ready yet. They are still working on finalizing their plan for presentation and will let us know when they have it available. So. Yeah. No, that's the land use attorney representing the applicant.
Is that Bill Redondo doing that?
Let's go with that.
Who's gave his position on supporting it?
We don't make a decision until all the information, and like we've always said, even if the board recommends support or denial, a board member or member can always go to the county process and make their point of whether they support it or don't support it. Just so everyone that doesn't know, we don't have any political power. We are not political, we're 501c3. We can't take a position on who we want to elect to office. If you ask everybody on the board and all our executive members, we're all different affiliations. We always allow all of our elected officials, regardless of party affiliation, to speak at every event, and we don't endorse candidates.
So when does the McDonald's go to the next step in the approval process?
Well, they have to first have a plan
Right.
to file a preliminary, and they have not yet done that. Has not been filed with the county, and that's the one that they're showing us before they go to the county. So that's always been it's not always the way, because some developers will not even come here because they don't have to.
Right.
We're just a bunch of people that pay $5 a cup of coffee, blah, like everybody else. So, but we are the collective group that tries to get the voice of Hockessin in the greater area to have a say on things that are happening in our community.
Mark, do you know if the plan needs to be submitted before the rezoning takes place?
Yeah, they have to have a preliminary plan before
So they won't vote on rezoning until they.
Yeah, they have to have a plan to look at. But Janet can elaborate more on that.
This project is so early in the process that there's 200 things ahead of them. I don't envision that they will be ready in even a year from now. You know, sometimes it takes 3 years to get through a council process, and these people have just begun, and it has to go through both the rezoning and building.
doesn't feel like 3 years when you're sitting on top of a McDonald's. Just so you know.
Can you get an estimate of when they might be here tonight?
Well, our next meeting is January. I will, again, put out a note, but I will ask them to confirm.
Okay, so
So we know.
they're not coming.
But, yes, absolutely.
I want to thank everybody that signed the letters that we went around asking and letting them know that we are still going to present it to McDonald's and it wasn't just for tonight. So send them. So thank you for all your support the last couple of months. Absolutely.
If you have it, you can go ahead and pass it around and put it on the back table and let people sign. Yeah, so, well, again, like Janet's right, it can take, the fastest the plan's ever gone through is when it was a brownfield that had already gone through remediation and cleanup, and it still took them 2 years. Most of the plans in the county are 18 months to 2 years or longer. There are some plans that, I mean, they're still waiting. And you can look these all up on the county. If you go to the county council site, they'll have every active project. But this project hasn't even filed yet. You put in that address, all you're gonna see is the new owner's name and the transfer price, which is $10.
If you go onto the county website, ncctv.org, and you go under parcel view, and you put in their address. And if you don't know the exact address, just get down into Limestone Road, a map will come up, you can look at everything that goes into the county from them, from the public, from anything is on that site, so you can track it. But this is something where, first of all, they have to come up with a plan, and then they have to have meetings with the land use department. And as we go through the process, there are at least three meetings, if they don't need any variances, at least 3 meetings that are public meetings, that are open to the public and you get to comment. And those are all are posted on that site.
And your petition, once you submit it, will be on there as well.
Right.
That will become part of the public record.
Yes.
Before any votes are taken. Yes, I.
So there was a petition, there was a public meeting, but the letters tonight that Donald was referring to are actually addressed, as some of you know who signed it, one is addressed to McDonald and one is addressed to the property owner. And the letters say, you can simply withdraw from this right now. You don't have to go through all the process because we don't want it there. 1,500 people signed the petition already. 150 people showed up at the library, some of you here. All of us came out tonight. 300 of you signed the letter. So we already put in a lot of time. And as far as the community is concerned, the answer is pretty clear that, especially the people around it, don't want it. I don't even live next to it. I don't want it there. We have enough traffic. There's going to be litter. There's a preschool that they are going to put their dumpsters right next to. Like, come on, guys. I don't want them to make more.
Well, to be fair, Isaac, there are other people on social media that are liking it. I'm just saying, it's never going to be everybody is all going to agree that we like purple. And everyone's going to say we hate green. There are going to be those that like each side, and it's the vocal minority sometimes, or the vocal majority. We don't know that. But those people will show up at the formal process, which will be through the county, and do that. But, I mean, it's not for us, because, yeah, you guys showed up to get passionate. That's great. That's how I got here 22 years ago. That's how I'm still here. We're trying to make the community better. We don't know what it's going to be, but there is, I know you guys have done it, because Donna showed it at their meeting at the library. The state already has a roadbed that goes all the way past behind those homes, all the way up to Golden Beacon and Stony Batter Road. That's the unbuilt 72 extension. So a lot of people.
That's been in existence since I started with the state.
Before the
which has
UDC
been
came.
like 30 years ago.
No, I'm just saying, no, hang on, what I'm trying to say is, there's a road.
Nobody gets a private entrance unless you go through DELDOT. DELDOT has to give you the permission. This is not all done behind closed doors. Every state agency has to weigh in on this as well as the county. So you will have a plus meeting from the state. All of these are online. You don't have to go to Dover to do it. So the plus meeting through the state is where they contact every state agency and they all have to weigh in on what they think they would approve or not approve. That's probably one of your first public meetings. You have planning board meetings that they have to go through. they have county committee meetings they have to go to, they have county vote meetings. All of those are public meetings, and everybody gets to talk at those meetings. If you want to speak, you get to speak. We are all bound by FOIA. We cannot tell the public they cannot speak.
State fire marshal even weighs in on every development plan that's filed in the county, anywhere in the state. Newcastle County more than others, but they will literally look at radiuses of roads and spurs and parking lots based on the equipment of the companies that will respond. And if they can't do it, they can be denied a permit or have to alter it. Now, you asked the question about the 72 extension. It goes back more than 30 odd years, more than the UDC, I believe, but
It
it's
was
a
the
road.
original 301.
Yeah, it was called, that's
It
right,
was
it's the
supposed to
original
connect
301.
Middletown to Brandywine 100, and that road bed is still there.
It's not an actual road bed.
Yes, it is a road bed, it's owned by the state of Delaware.
It's not,
It's on the
physical
map.
road
Right, but it
bed.
is a
It's
deeded
land
roadway.
owned by the state.
But Donna, it is a deeded roadway. All they, and this is where, well, I just want to say good. People that have lived in that area think they have this big swath of open space of about 60 to 80 feet wide behind their homes. That's state land.
And where does it go from into?
It's not a physical hard road, but it is what they, Janet's correct, she worked the state for 20 odd years. It's a deeded road bed. If you look it up and click on it, it'll actually say what type of class road bed it is. Even though they haven't done anything to it, including cutting the trees.
It's not that you're saying it's actually a road.
No, it's an actual deeded right of way that's been there and can be built anytime they decide to move forward.
To the property.
Say that again?
It's an official place that the state has.
Well, they own
The
it.
state owns it.
They've owned it forever.
So, then where does it go from to?
It goes from that intersection where the light is, right where that little kind of a spur that goes in off of Limestone. If you come up from April and don't turn, you would enter the beginning of what's now the 72, this 301 that goes elsewhere. But that now goes all the way, winds behind those neighborhoods, I think on Limestone.
Goes out to Stony Batter.
Comes out of Stony Batter below the college. Yep. Yeah, and I mean, you can look at that, that's on parcel view too, you can look at it, you've seen on the map, you pull up the parcel view, you can look at that parcel next to it, you can see the road, and you can click on it, and it'll give you all the specs on Delta, which match any other road you can click on as well. So it's all there, but it's just, that's there as well, so I just, when you, I always say this, just when you, and it's great that you've got a bunch of people with passion on this, just remember, there's always a consequence to something. So you might win something, but you might end up with a road one day there, because there's nothing, unless you get the state, you give that away, which they're not in the business of giving too much away these days, but that's what also should be done, because that will kill any future expansion there. So, I would tie that into the fire ordinance, just because that road bed will be a road one day when traffic increases.
But what about the daycare? They have something
Yep. So daycares are by right, they can go on any type of zone in the county. Yep.
The whole thing is it needs to be redone. It was never made to be a commercial property. So, not residential, but suburban. Where in suburban, you could have maybe an office, or an office building.
No, you cannot put suburban. Suburban is the highest residential zoning in Newcastle County. The way S even came, just a little quick history lesson, I learned all this when I showed up. S is the midpoint where you switch from residential to office or commercial. And they did that when the UDC came into being in 1997. What that did is the county had all these parcels of land that were being used prior to zoning that didn't have zoning or didn't make clear sense. So a lot of them are grandfathered in, and unless they change, they don't lose that status. So what they did is they picked S as the middle, the highest residential and the one threshold before you have to go for rezoning for commercial lots. No, they don't have to rezone, they can go on any type of homes. Any daycare, because, and that's something I fought at, and for 25 years, I've been saying, don't allow daycares to be built on any residential land, because they're not a public school, which is why that zone was allowed for complete schools, like North Star. That was agriculture farmland, but residential. But you can put a for-profit daycare, pick anyone you like, where your grandkids go or kids go, they're a business, because you're paying for that. And one day, like I say, it's gonna be a white elephant, because the bell curve is gonna go down on population, and they're gonna say, I need relief from the codes, because my residential zoning and my daycare building that I built I was on, I can't make it anymore, and they're gonna ask for relief. And they're gonna convert to office problems, because that makes sense. Yeah, or they'll put it in commercial. And that's what I'm saying, if we stop it by changing the zoning now, And it's not something that Janet can do single-handedly, she's one of 13. I've done it with every county executive I ran, and I've done it with every single one since Tom Gordon up to Marcus Henry, and I'm still waiting for my appointment with Marcus, so I can say, you've gotta get this done.
You think a McDonald's is better than an on the street?
No, I think a for-profit daycare on any zoning anywhere in a residential zone community is worse than anything. Because it's a waiting white elephant, it's going to have to be rezoned at some point.
Is that kind of how like, the CVS got in and, the quarter patch? Like,
No, they actually downs them, that was permissible zoning there.
they had a lot of repairs.
Second most expensive CVS in the country.
Yeah, and if we reverse that, if it was a CVS and we came back and said, hey, these guys want to put in an auto repair shop, imagine what we would have heard then. It's the same thing, just reversed,
And in that one, that particular case, half that property was still developable,
as residential.
yeah, and that was put in permanent easement, conservation easement, could never be touched again. We did that
There
through
were
the
only 6 houses, I think, that.
That's some of the other, so like assisted living, and some of the other commercial areas, even like the city, they have bus stops, but they need workers to come in throughout Williston. Do you think that this McDonald's will push for a bus stop because they need their workers to come in?
Yeah, that would be built off though.
I think there's already somebody on Limestone Road that's pushing for a bus stop.
Who's that?
Is that not public
I think that
information?
project down
It's
by
not,
Creek
it's
Road.
not public information.
Because I think, I don't know if the church is considered a parking garage, but the building, the rental apartments they want to build across the street from their side, doesn't the code say they have to have a parking ride within?
No.
It used to be years ago, it was if you were gonna have affordable or Section 8 housing, that you had to be on the bus stop. There were all sorts of criteria for that having to be on the bus stop. And then they did this, and then nobody took the bus. And so the bus stop went away. This has been in and out of the county code for a long time, that you have to build certain things, then you have to have mass transportation, and none of them have worked. And why, I've never seen anybody take a bus to McDonald's.
Yes.
Maybe I'm stating the obvious here, but I think one of the reasons that you have so many people here tonight for McDonald's and everything is because in Hocassin and Pike Creek and all of our areas, we don't have any real aides, we don't have any town councils that can stand up. And I think there needs to be some sort of weight given to the amount of people that show up for this, that show up for the library, that show up for all these decisions. Maybe it's not everybody, but it's enough people, and there really needs to be something, because what I'm hearing is, and the way this works, is that yes, of course, it goes for the county, but that means that I who live here have the same voice, power, ranking, whatever, as somebody who lives in, I don't know, Middletown, Delaware City. And that's inherently not enough.
Because it's one vote per council person, so it's one vote per district.
And to be
So
clear-
the people in Claymont can say the same thing. Why are you in Hocassin making a decision for what goes on in Claymont? That's, why do we in Hocassin make a decision on what goes on in Middletown or Townsend? But unless you are an incorporated town, that's the way the unincorporated county works. And I can tell you, Mark may have been here 20 years, but I can tell you that I was here before Mark was here. And I was back and forth, there were 4 of us out here that were back and forth on every office that was available. We just flipped every year because nobody else would do it. And somebody came along and said, we need to be incorporated. And I did all of the research for incorporation, and CJ Seitz, who is now head of the Supreme Court, he lived out here, he was an attorney, and he said, if you want to incorporate, if you guys want to incorporate, I will do all the paperwork, because you have to go through the state and get a charter and all of that. He said, I will do all of the paperwork for you. And we put it to a vote, and nobody, virtually nobody, wanted to incorporate. Because once you incorporate, you've got another layer of government, and you are gonna pay taxes to that layer of government. And when they figured that out, it was like, no.
When is that proposal?
Oh my God, that was the 80s.
And it's been done since then too. There was one time in the early 2000s, one of the former members of GHADA splintered off with another group to do this planning partnership, and they talked about incorporating, they want to do the same thing, there's plans, you can still go in the county and find the overlay plan for Hopes, and that designates all the zones for type of zoning they want to see, and ones they don't. And on top of that, you now have to pay for county police or state police if you go into a corporation, you have to have your own safety, police force.
Or you contract.
Or you contract it out,
And you
which is what a lot of them do. Ambulance service, right now it's the fire company, that's getting more expensive, but you have to have your own planning board, your own land use people, unless you can, and I don't know anyone who contracts with the county for that. That stays local, but it's not a cheap gig to do it, as Janice said, we've seen it before. I've lived lots of places in this country, all over the world, and every time you add that next layer, it's another 10 to 15% minimum is the average. So just take a look at your total tax bill and say, if you want to spend another $3,500 a year.
I know that we aren't as big as Wilmington, but if you look at Wilmington taxes, they pay more in city tax than what we pay for school taxes. So they have their city tax, they have their school tax, and they have any incorporated municipality has to pay for the services that the county gives them. So if you don't have a police force, you have to contract to the county, and that goes into your county taxes. So you pay for the services as they are supplied. If you don't have your own sewer service, you pay for our sewers, the county sewer service. It just goes on down the line. You have to be like Newark in order to get out of basically the county taxes, but then you have your own city tax, which in many cases, right, and in many cases, those small municipalities charge you more tax than what the county does. If you look at your county tax, I've lived maybe not as many places as Mark, but this is like my 9th state. So if you look at our county taxes here, there is no one in this country other than maybe Wyoming, where they have those services, that charges what we charge for county services. And the county doesn't understand. The county only is mandated by code to bill for the schools. We get nothing for doing that. We have to take the number that the districts give us, we bill for that, we collect it, we turn it over to the state, and we have no compensation for that.
They lose money on it, basically.
Yes,
which is unfair.
I mean, I understand if they say, hey, mail it out because you guys are already mailing it out. But every time we do a tax mailing, and this year we got 2, it's $500,000. So we have now spent, once this mailing comes out, we will have now spent $1 million of your taxes just to mail out bills. Yeah. I mean, those are the small things that, like I said, when you take the number of days in a year and the amount of our budget, we spend $1 million a day. We have like $367 million budget. And there's 365 days in a year. So literally we spend $1 million. It's crazy.
Quick question. Those of us close to McDonald's, we're obviously going to keep showing up. We'll share our letters with the reps or with whoever done that and ask them just to withdraw their proposal now. It sounds like they have the power to do that. Starbucks just withdrew from that other site.
After 5 years.
Is there any other advice you would suggest for people who want to persuade a developer just that it's not worth their time?
Yes, absolutely. I would tell you the best way to do this, and it follows the plan when Stoltz decided to go after the former Barley Mill property and had the giant plan that scared everybody, because he had towers that were 63 feet tall and buildings that were going to be so dense in there, and it scared the living crap out of everybody. Like, oh my God, from this nice little office place, we're going to have this massive, development. And then he had another plan, which is the one he won, and that's the one that also was going through. But what you do is when you show up, and this is the folks who learned this from Chateau Country, say what you will, but they're pretty smart. What they did when they went to all of the county meetings, none of them repeated what the prior speaker said, because they will shut you down if you start repeating. I don't like McDonald's. That's great. Nobody likes everything. Thank you. We've heard that already. Move on. So what you want to do is be concise and write your story so that everybody gets up and does their 3 minutes, and it's a continuation. You can literally read your entire letter into the record, and I watched that up until 1 o'clock in the morning. That meeting was down there at the county council building. Longest one I've ever been to. My God, I couldn't believe it. But that's what they did. They literally had a continuation of each speaker lined up in order, reading the entire will of the community, what they liked or didn't like, and why it shouldn't be voted on. I would say that's the way to do it. And the same thing you're doing. Go to them, because, and we have done this before. I've just tell you. Okay, here's a developer who wants to put Children of America across the way. And they had already spent $500,000 fighting the neighbors and everybody else. They were heavily invested. And they said, we're in too deep to stop. But at one point, their land use attorney said, make them an offer. And that's what the offer was. They said, we will sell it to you for what we paid. So it was, are we going to get a GoFundMe? Now, I can tell you, and you probably know this, they didn't pay a lot for that land. Less than $700,000. I think it was 600 and something, but less than 700,000. You think you can get a GoFundMe to get 750,000? Because they've already got some engineering into design and so forth, even though we haven't seen them yet. But that's what I always say. If you want to control what happens to the land, own it. And nothing says you can't get together with a whole bunch of people. They do it all the time everywhere else. Buy it. Then you can basically control what happens to it. It's a bot.
And what?
Is that what you said to them?
What I said to
Is
them?
that what you just said up front, to file a lawsuit?
They filed a lawsuit also, yes, yes, which then costs, they got the income.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
they
had
can,
very
they
good
can
attorneys.
do that. Yes.
Yes.
I just want to clarify, you guys said something before, if you don't want a road, McDonald's is an option, they can still build a road.
No, they can't without an ingress and egress.
If McDonald's is not building on the state road, they're building on the parcel next to it.
But they need a variance for their entranceway. Besides, if you look at
But
that
the
plan.
entranceway is going, they're asking DelDOT to maintain the entranceway, so that entranceway can become part of the road going through the Stone Valley. They're not building on top of the whole road. There is still enough room to build a
More than
road.
the 25 feet that they need of that entranceway from DelDOT.
It's still, they're still putting in a 2-lane ingress and egress.
Yeah, but they have to have right in, right out, and straight across on a 4-way intersection.
Right, and there's room that they can take over.
They have to take it from the adjoining property owner, and they've already done that once.
I'm just saying,
I'm
they're
just,
not building on.
go on parcel view, spend a couple of sleepless nights, and look at the adjoining property and go all the way back and see what they've already done. Because they can't keep taking off the same spot for what they already took it for, under eminent domain or however. And if they have to give up 20 to 25 feet to allow McDonald's to have the radius they need to go in, that would probably, I can't guarantee it because I don't know what DelDOT will do on any given day, because we bring your secretary, but that would kill that right of way for right in, right out, and straight across. It's a 4-way intersection there. And if you look at the rest of Paper Mill and Limestone, there's a right turn lane, 2 through lanes, and a left lane. On that Paper Mill, there's one straight across and turn lane, and then a left and a right.
It's a fully signalized
Yeah,
intersection.
and it's already there. The signal works now. I know, I'm just saying. I mean, but I would, honest to God, I would start a GoFundMe. I would do it because maybe you can just, I don't want to say this out loud, but you could bribe them into not doing it by saying, we'll pay you $250,000 not to do it. Find something else.
I don't think bribe is a good word to use.
Influence. I mean, there's lots of ways to do it.
Are they negotiating with DelDOT for that piece of land they need to make this a whole, to make the parcel whole? What
Say
they
that
want?
one more time so I could hear you, please, like with your.
I said, could the developers be negotiating now with DelDOT to purchase the piece of land that they need to make the parcel big enough to accommodate what they want to do?
They could.
They don't need any
So
more
is that,
land.
are you aware? I mean,
Well,
that's
they don't
not
need the
something
land.
that comes
They just,
out of
they
the
just need
board.
DelDOT to give them an access to do what they want.
But
in
that
that corner.
access is, there's an access already there.
They do not have the land, they are not using the land for their project. Their site plan, in order for it to fit, requires them getting another 40 feet of currently DelDOT land.
It's bigger than what I thought. I thought it was 20 to 25 feet, so that's substantial.
It's 40 feet. Because what they're currently does not fit on
So they could be doing, I will tell you that we've seen projects, I carry around the this homestead is the corner house right by the soccer field. And from that Evanston Road all the way up to the post office was a bunch of parcels, all different zonings from heavy industrial to agricultural to residential to CR, CN, you name it, owned by about 9 individuals, different entities. And I said 15 years ago, somebody's gonna come along one day and be smart enough to figure out how to make contingencies that all of the parcels have to be bought for it to go through. And that happened. There was a developer that wanted to do a town center there. And because of COVID, it stalled, they ended up doing all residential. That was Glenheim Homes. They bought all of those parcels with deals from every single property owner, save one, because John Mandrella sold the brick house separately to one developer. And by the way, 4 developers all thought they had the first right of refusal. That's how good John Mandrella was, rest his soul. He had everybody
He was
convinced.
an auctioneer.
Yeah, he was actually auctioning off all his parcels. But he was the key to all that, because everything on either side of him was owned by others. But somebody put that together. It's almost 75 acres. And out of that is going to be the next housing plan in Hocassin. And they're lining up to buy them, and they haven't even started yet.
Hocassin Station.
Yeah, Hocassin Station, which was going to
You
be.
all holler about it like McDonald's. Why in the hell would you come down to Hocassin where we got everything on Valley Road? You talk about traffic? You ain't seen traffic.
So, I mean,
We got
it
the
can
soccer
happen,
field.
you know, there's
Now they're
developers
gonna
that
have
are smart
200
enough to
houses
figure
built
out how
on
to
both
put
sides of the
puzzle
road.
together. But
You didn't come around hollering about stop building houses.
yeah, I always say, it's like, look at New Jersey if you wanna see what happened to the burbs.
Wanna hear something? I'll tell you something.
Other businesses for places to work, kids all leave, become a bedroom community. And that's the worst one, because that means taxes are going up. You gotta have somebody to pay them. And I'm neither for or against, I can take or leave McDonald's. I will tell you personally, the only time I hit McDonald's is when I'm hitting the highway, I get an Egg McMuffin on a Friday morning or Saturday morning, coffee, and I get on 95 and drive for 7 hours north. And that's the only time I go to McDonald's, so I would just get it sooner if it were doing that, so. Go ahead, Tom.
A little bit of advice. 7 years ago, where the Harmony at Hocassin is now on Montgomery Road, there was a plan coming. There was a plan coming up to put a gas station and a big box store on that location. And we went ahead and organized the community. We had petitions at the Acme, we had petitions at the Wawa. We gathered over 2,000 signatures and filed them with Newcastle County, saying that we did not support the zoning change that would be required to put that there, that retail facility there. And we literally stopped the plan. And we ended up with the assisted living, which is by right allowable in the current zoning. The assisted living or a daycare or a school could have gone there with no change of zoning. But since we had over 2,000 local Hocassin signatures and we filed them with the county, the plans were withdrawn. We stopped it in its tracks. So my advice is get out there in public areas and gather up signatures. You need a few thousand signatures, it'll have an impact and it'll help your cause.
And just a caveat, because you do not want to run afoul of the law, but if you're going to a shopping center, you have to contact the owner of the shopping center, not the store you're standing in front of. They have no right to give you permission to get a petition there. Same with Wawa or a gas station. Contact the owner. Now, if the gas station's a local owner, it'll be on the door, the phone number, call them. But if you go, I can tell you this, if you go to Lantana, they will have the state police out there because there's so many people that are doing things that they shouldn't do on the property because it's a lot of traffic. But you have to have the permission of the owner. So just put that in your back pocket if you're going to do some petition. But you can go door to door, put it online. There's lots of ways to do it.
Yes,
The owner.
yes, they're in person. Yeah, they're in person. Yeah, the owners are on parcel view.
So, and again, apologies that they aren't here. I will vehemently tell them that I want to know for sure. We're going to ounce of blood. They're going to be here for the January meeting before we put it out. I will tell you, Isaac was pinging me 3 weeks before the meeting. It's like, we don't ever know until at least 2 weeks before who is and isn't going to show up for sure. But yeah, pinging us and said, yeah, from what we know, they're going to be here. So I know Isaac left. I didn't know not to disparage. There he is. Sit back. But we wanted to get it out, and we are not the government. We do not have to publish our agendas 2 weeks in advance. We try to. Other than Joe, you're looking at most of the board that does all the back office stuff. So we appreciate appreciate your patience on things. It's not a perfect world we're in, but we're trying to make it better. Yes, sir.
I have a question
Amanda,
about
I'm
the,
sorry, I thought Pam.
I'm sorry. The Hindu Temple bought the property, working Uber property across the street on Wilmington Road.
I heard they put a letter of intent, I don't know, has it been purchased?
Any word on what's going on there?
Well, I can tell you the scuttlebutt I heard is they already asked about, can they put in a 40-foot wide driveway to accommodate tour buses? That's a rumor. I have no idea what they want tour buses for, but they need that for the turning radius, I guess. But that's across from Old Wilmington. And
And
there's,
I heard that it's gonna be more residential.
yeah, and there's another property over there I hear that's also quite large that some people are looking at. Whether it's the Hindu temple, I don't know. But I will tell you this. If you want some well-heeled friends, go to the temple when they have their open houses. They had a parking issue. If you ever got, they're out there tonight right now. I went by, because my office is out in York, and I'm driving down, it's like, oh my God, the lights are lit up, there's cars going left and right. I'm like, it's a Monday night, who's going to church on a Monday night? So I don't know if it's the end of the volley or something beginning, but they're all in there tonight having a wonderful time. They have parking issues. They got these little mini school buses, and they were leasing parking from the Stone Mill. And then they realized one day, this place is pretty much rented out, leased out. Let's buy it. So they bought the Stone Mill so they could have parking. Think about that, $10 million so they could park their parishioners on the 3 days of the week that they're at the temple. And they make money still on that because they're still getting all the leases and the rents and everything else. So it's like, wow, this floored me when they did that. So I mean, think about it. There's a lot of money around the area. Hidden in plain sight.
I figured out why they haven't bought the substation and gotten
Yeah.
through. Probably because Del Mar was not selling.
Yeah, that Del Mar was expanding that substation for all the power. Yes, sir. Mike.
A question mark about the Wells Fargo building down the street. So I want to say it's been vacant for about 2 years.
Not two, it's just a little over a year. They finally pulled the collection spots.
So I noticed that just over the weekend or one day last week, they moved 2 large dumpsters into the parking lot, and there were 3 or 4 vehicles. And they posted signs on all the doors, say construction site, keep out. So there's activity there now. I noticed at the beginning of the meeting, you said that the building is available for sale. Is it possible that it's been recently purchased and now they're doing demolition?
It hasn't shown up on a real estate closing, and it hasn't shown up as transferred on parcel deed. They could be gutting the vault. Because there's vault and safe deposit boxes. And when Wiskus had their fire over here where Sherwin-Williams is, state police were on guard duty for 2 weeks until they could get all the safe deposit boxes open and transferred to the other branches. So they could be just pulling all the vault and safety deposit boxes out.
But that should show up on parcel view also because they
It
have
should be a
to
demolition permit.
Yeah, 2 massive dumpsters, and people working there all last week.
I doubt they'll do it, but we'll see. There was, with the Goodwill collection, after they pulled the 2 sheds, there were a lot of people still dumping there, tractor trailers parking there. County police addressed that, state police with the parking, they're all commercial, it's under state police. If you live in the neighborhood, the county police show up. By the way, just for your tax dollars, every dollar you send to the county, last time it was 63% or 63 cents, might be up to 65, goes to public safety. More than that now, right? Yeah, so if you look at, that's your biggest dollar amount that's going to public safety. If you see something, say something, and there's a non-emergency number you can call, it's the same people that take the 911, but. You know.
We turned that over, the dumping, we turned over to code enforcement. Because even if police are not their jurisdiction, but code enforcement is.
All right, I'm going to let Pete do a Historic Society. Thank you all for coming out, though. If you want to leave, I understand. Pete's going to give an update on the Historic Society. I know, I'm sorry.
You weren't supposed to say
I
that
know,
yet.
the most exciting part of the night.
Thank you, everybody, for
History.
staying for the most important part of the evening. I'll fill you guys in on the. Do I need it?
Yeah, you can. Everybody does tonight, just because you're
So I don't say
sickly.
it's not on.
Flip the switch. There you
Just to fill you in on the spigot and the historic marker. That is not an official historic marker with the state. That's on Valley Road, right at the intersection with Evanston. There's a historic house that has 2 front doors and a small bar next to it. Apparently, the school children would stop at the spigot there to get a drink of water on their way to 107C. We had an informal agreement with Blenheim Homes that they would install a historic marker there for the significance of that. So they're not obligated to do it. It's not going to be a state looking historic marker. There was also some talk over where the best location is for that site, because if it's on the property itself, the residents won't really like it and the public won't be able to read the information on it. So I have not had any contact with them regarding that historic marker. It's the end of our fiscal year. We have our end of year meeting on Wednesday over at Lambourne Library. So everybody is invited, 6:30 social, 7 o'clock meeting. Our financial records came out perfectly exact on our 2 checking accounts. So last year we had a discrepancy by 1 cent. This year I found the 1 cent discrepancy before we submitted it to our accountant. So I was able to correct that. It was just a matter of our treasurer not inputting that on the spreadsheet properly. And if you know anything about accounting, being off by 1 cent could be $1 million in one way, and the opposite the other. So it's great that that worked out. So our fiscal year goes from 4th quarter to 3rd quarter. So it was over at the end of September, and it's great to have that work done with because I put in a lot of effort finishing up those final year reports to submit. And then our accountant also handles our corporation tax, which we had not been doing properly 10 years ago or so, which is $25. So now we have our accountant handling that so that that gets done properly. It's a very, very minor piece of work that needs to be done for every organization that's now being done properly. Also, we got a grant fund for tweets repairs, thanks to Mike Smith. And he's waiting for all the receipts to come back to him, sorry. But our contractor actually died just a couple months ago. So he was supposed to start the work in June. His son is taking over the company. So they started doing some of the carpentry work, but now getting into winter time, they're not sure whether they can get the whitewash applied in time or not. So we might be backed up until spring getting you receipts. Sorry, Mike. And thanks for the grant funding. We appreciate it. We also have a new volunteer who's helping with Instagram posts. So we have all of our traditional social medias, including now Instagram. So I don't know anything about Instagram, but our information is being posted there for other generations who use those types of social media. And we got permission at our last meeting to set up a 3rd checking account to process membership dues because our treasurer was concerned with attaching any kind of online payment to our other 2 checking accounts. So we have permission to do that. So now more work for me is integrating an online processing for those membership dues. Currently, we accept cash and check, and nobody wants to deal with either of them. And we'll get more membership and renewals a whole lot easier having that all done digitally. So I think that's pretty much all I have to report on. And I'm going to write down what the meaning of PERC is and the chemical formula, so that next time you ask me, I'll have that written down. But any questions? No, and we're looking for board members and help. We're all volunteers, so if you have any kind of special talents or skills, any amount of time that you can put in is a big help for us. And if people had more interest in history, the McDonald's wouldn't be a discussion because that was the old Harmony Schoolhouse, which our past president, Joe Lake, had tried to save, and there was no community support to save an old schoolhouse. So that was erased from our history. Very small schoolhouse, but it should have been preserved for the community. Thank you.
And that's true, they did save the bell and the cupola, the bell tower part of it, and that was pretty much it. But yeah, that was supposed to be saved. That's why Bell bought the land originally, was for preservation. And then they did what commonly happens, demolition by neglect. You just don't do anything, support the windows and let the weather take over. And that's happened a lot around the state, and Newcastle County especially. There's now a demolition by neglect ordinance that the county's put in that doesn't let that happen anymore. But leave it for that. Bill Hutchins is here from the Hopkeston Business Association, who will be meeting tomorrow night, Bill?
We are, our membership meeting is tomorrow night at the Lamborn Library. Thank you very much, Pete and Doreen, Dr. Ronnie. They are going to be our hosts. The sponsors are the folks from the VFW up the road. And the main topic of discussion will be, we have a couple of nonprofit organizations that are local here in Hopkeston, which will be presenting and making their presentation. So tomorrow night, 7 o'clock at the Lamborn Library.
And 6:30 social still, Bill?
6:30 is our networking social hour, and then our business meeting starts at 7 there.
Thank you. Okay. 4th of July. Talked about this last month. I gotta look at this again, there's another one. Tongue twister. Semi-quincentennial celebration, half of 500. Don't have to say 41. But it's going to be the 250th. For those that don't know, we are 100% volunteer driven, volunteer supported by businesses and individuals. And this year, because of the 250th, what do you think the cost of fireworks is? We put our reservation in last year, and there's upwards of between 5, 30, and 50% increases that we could be facing for fireworks. Some of that has to do with tariffs, so I've already got my letter off to the president and the folks to see if they can exempt the fireworks, because as much as there are American companies making them, there's not that many anymore. I'm reaching out to one in New Hampshire, called Atlas, that's been doing them for almost 100 years, to see if they have any extra capacity, but that's the big deciding factor. Everybody wants to put on a big splash this year, and because of that, there's not enough fireworks to go around, so anything that comes in now is subject to tariffs, potentially. So, right to your president, ask them to drop the tariffs and fireworks, and outside of that, $5, $10, $50, $100 donation would be wonderful. That gives us more oohs and ahs. And again, just so you know, we took over the fireworks and the 4th of July from Kenny Wynn, who'd done it. Janet started it way back when originally. She was but a teenager, as I joke. But it is 100% community supported. It does not get funding other than a small donation from the county every year. We don't get anything from the state, but we have to pay for the state police, not the state police, the county. No, the state police, the county donates it, the mounted patrol donates that, the parade, the insurances. It costs us almost $3,000 just for insurance for the day to put on the 4th of July. So it's a lot of effort, and we do like to have volunteers for the parade, because I always say, if you've never been to the Hopkeston 4th of July parade when it starts, you're probably smiling and happy, because it looks great once it hits the hill, but it's like herding cats at the top of the hill before everything goes, because everybody wants to go first, and all the politicians will be out in full force, because it's not only election year, it's the 250th, so they want their pictures. So we try to get as many volunteers to help out. Thankfully, I found some very apt women, former military, that know how to rule the roost and have taken over the parade organizing, which is great. But we do need help, as always, and we would like to do a couple of things that I joked about last time. I actually put in a submission for a flyover by the Armed Forces. Didn't know you could do that, but we can actually request it, because we did it a year in advance. We might be considered for that. I'm still trying to figure out where we're going to have a flyover if we actually get the go-ahead, because we go down Old Lancaster Pike, there's nothing but trees, so could be later in the day, going down Valley Road, don't know, but I've got a former military gentleman who's going to help me on that as well. So there's a lot of things that we're going to try to do, but we are still going to have the morning relays, which the hack takes care of, and then the parade, the beer garden, and the food trucks at the Hopkeston Corner in the parking lot, then the parade, and then the fireworks at the evening. So we tried last year again to get parking. If we could get everybody to do $5 to $10 on Valley Road to park, by the way, most of them from PA to park there, just go down some tags, we would have made enough money to pay for this year's fireworks if we took like $10 a car. So that many vehicles parked illegally up and down Valley Road. So anyway, try to do a good one for the 250th, and then back to normal. So if you know anybody or have a business friend, ask them to make a donation. We will accept any and all denominations of currencies. We won't accept pennies, but they don't make it. Unless you happen to have an Omega penny. There's supposed to be 5 of them that were minted. The Omega sign on them, they're already up to $5 million. So if you happen to find one that's ever got into circulation, you're our new best friend. All right, anything for the good of the order? Anybody got anything going on with the holidays? Yes, Trish?
We need to approve a representative for Yorkland Ridge. The name is Craig Downey.
Oh, yeah, Craig. All right,
I
we
don't know,
have.
is Craig Downey here?
He's not here tonight, but we have a quorum, if not, we'll have to confer.
Anyway, just ask all the favor.
Let's do it by email, we'll do it by email, because we don't have a quorum present anymore.
We don't?
Is that fine? Okay, I'll see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I hope we don't have enough.
Okay.
So we'll do it by email, but yeah, he mentioned that last meeting too, so still in that position.
Okay.
We'll defer that to them. All right, anything else, any of the, church holiday bazaars, or anything they'd like everyone to know about? Extra turkeys for Thanksgiving, you'd like us all to come over? All right, motion to adjourn? So moved. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Have a great Thanksgiving, a wonderful Christmas and New Year's. We'll be back here the third Monday in January.